This application problem has a positive marginal change. Let's read the problem first. The amount to purchase a car in the United States from the year 2010 to 2020 is increased at a rate of $2,000 each successive year. In year 2016, the average amount to purchase a car was $30,000. That X represents the time in years since 2010 and Y represents the amount spent to purchase a car. I want you to identify the marginal change, write the Poinslow form, and convert it to statistical, or we call that slope-intercept form, and provide an analysis of the equation, graph the linear equation as well. So the first variable that we have to take care is the X variable. So X stands for time. When it deals with time, especially in years, we don't use 2010, 2011, 2012, such and such. We set up an initial year. So this problem is based on 2010 to 2020. So the 2010 is the initial year. So initial year, I call that t equals to 0, or you can call that x equals to 0. And then 2011, that is the next year. So we call t equals to 1, or you can call x equals to 1. And then 2016, that is 5 years later. So 1 plus 5 is equals to 6, and then 4 years later in 2020, so you plus 10 to the t or x, so 6, you plus 4 to the 6, so 6 plus 4 is equals to 10. And then the marginal change, so the marginal change means the slope. So the slope is $2,000 per year. Another way to take care of the 2,000 is you write the number 2 followed by a word 1,000. So 2,000 is the same thing as 2 followed by 30. And then $2,000 per year. So the per means division. So $2,000 divided by 1 year. So 2 divided by 1 is equals to 2. So the slope is equals to 2. And then in 2016, the amount was $30,000. So here is how we write it. So in 2016, so that means t is equals to 6, or we should call this x equals to 6, since that is the x variable, right? And then the y, the amount, is equals to $30,000. So $30,000. Another way to write this is you write 30 and then $1,000. So this is a very convenient way to take care of the data, because every time you write $30,000, we don't have to write the 30. So that gives me a point x1, y1, which is x is equals to 6, y is equals to 30. Not $30 to buy a car, $30,000. The 30 is in thousand. So from now on, every time I give a number for the variable y, that is in thousand. So if y is equals to 1, then that represents $1,000. If y is equals to 10, that represents $10,000. All right, so now we have a slope, we have a point, we can build the Poinslow form. So let's start with the Poinslow form. So what is the Poinslow form? So let's write Poinslow form. So that is y minus y1, you don't need a parentheses for that, y minus y1 equals to the slope m. Some textbook use b for the slope, times x minus x1. So with the slope is equals to 2, x is equals to 6, so y minus 6, or minus 30, sorry, y minus 30 is equals to 2 times x minus 6, and then you convert this point slope to slope intercept by first you distribute the 2, so minus 30 is equals to 2 times x, and then 2 times 6, and then you add 30 on both sides, so y is equals to 2x minus 12 plus 30, so y equals to 2x plus 18 is my linear equation. So this is my linear equation in what form? In slope intercept form. And then x is the time, y is equals to the amount. Sometimes if you want to put this in terms of the problem, so you can do this, you can do amount equals to 2 times year and then plus 18. Instead of using x and y, because x and y, they mean nothing, right? So to give them a name, you just use a name instead of x and y. So the next thing that we will have to do is we want to analyze the y equals to 2x plus 18 a little bit. So I already prepared a table for you. So x is equals to year and y is equals to amount. So the year goes from 2010, look at the red, to 2020. So at 2010, x is equals to 0. Next year, x is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth until you reach x equals to 10. All right, and then how do you calculate the amount? Easy. All you have to do is you plug in x into the equation. So y is equals to 2x plus 13 plus 18. So initially, when x is equals to 0, 2 times 0 plus 18 is equals to 18. So that is the first row of the table. So that means initially at year 2010, the average price to spend to buy a car was $18,000. Again, the amount is in thousands. So it's not $18 to buy a car, it's $18,000 to buy a car. And then in 2011, when x is equals to 1, you plug in 1 into the linear equation. So 2 times 1, which is 2 times 1 plus 18, that is equals to 20. In the next year, 2 times 2 plus 18 is equals to 22. So if you keep working on this, you work all the math out, and then you look at the pattern, do we agree that the 2, the slope equals to 2, is the increment? So when year is equals to 0, you have 18. So initially, the average amount to spend on car was $18 per $18,000, and then each year you have to spend additional $2,000 because the price goes up, right, as the time moves on. So the price goes up as the time moves on. That means next year people have to spend more money to buy a car. So that's what that means. As the time increases, the price increases, right? So how it increased by how much? Increase by how much? You have to look at the slope. So in this problem, the slope is equals to 2. It doesn't mean every year you pay two more dollars for a car. The 2 is in thousands. So each year, if you look at the pattern of the y value, the increment is equals to 2. So that means every year you have to the price goes up by $2,000 per year. So that is what I wrote on the right hand side. So initially people pay $13,000 to buy a car, and then as the time moves on, every year they have to pay additional $2,000 to buy a car because the price goes up every year, right? How about this? Using this y equals to 2x plus 18. How about 30 years later? I want to make a prediction. 30 years later, now from 2010, 30 years later, which is 2040, right? How much is the car going to cost? So at 2010, I have to spend $18,000. How about 40 years later? So if you wait 40 years later, according to this linear equation, so 40 years later from 2010, 30 years later, so you add 30 to it. So that means when the time is equals to 30. So all you have to do is you let x equals to 30. So if you look at the purple, I plug in 30 into the x. So 2 times 30 is equals to 60. 60 plus 18 is equals to 78. 78 is not $78 per to buy a car. That is too cheap. The 78 is in thousands, so that means 30 years from 2010, you have to spend around $38,000 to purchase a car. All right, so that's how you analyze the model. The intercept, again, let's say this again, the intercept was the initial price. Okay, in 2010, people pay $18 to buy a car, and then the slope is equals to 2, or you can call the marginal change is equals to 2. That means as times move on, each year people has to pay additional $2,000 to buy a car. So that's what the intercept and the marginal change means. So can we graph the y equals to 2x plus 8? So the y-intercept is at 18. So we start at 18. The slope is equals to 2. So the graph is on next page. So when x is equals to 0, we have 18, right? So every year gives me an order pair. So I just have all the order pairs for you. So every year represent a point, and then I connect all the points to get a straight line. The slope is equals to 2. And then what is this straight line represent? This straight line represent y equals to 2x plus 18. So initially, when x is equals to 0, we are at 18. That is the y-intercept, the point on the y-axis. So each year you have to pay additional $2,000 to buy a car. So that's how you plot all the points and then you connect them to get a straight line. All right. Oh, one more thing I have to remind you. If you are doing this on plain paper, so without the grids, you have to be very careful, because without the grid, you have to be very careful with the scale, because if your scale is not even, after you plot all the points, you might not be able to connect them using a straight line. If you are using a graphing paper, that will be fine. So if you are not using a graphing paper, so if you are using a plain paper, make sure your scale is very, very good. All right, so that is the end of this video. If you think my instruction is helpful, let me know in the comment below. Like the video, share the video for me, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Signing out for now. See you all in the next one.